about anything on here.
Can't on the
Where
subject.
is that written?
Gotcha. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Mount Juliet Board of Commissioners special called meeting today, February 5th, 2024. Having all 5 members of the Board of Commissioners present, I will declare a quorum and call the meeting to order. Our next item is to set the agenda. So if there's no objections, we'll set the agenda as published. Hearing none, we have no objections on that, so we'll move on to our third item, which is our citizen comments. If you are here in the audience and would like to make a comment about tonight's meeting with the appointment, would invite you to come forward, give your name and address for the record, and you'll be recognized for 3 minutes. Okay, seeing none for citizen comments, we'll move into the next item, which is an appointment of an Ethics Commission. This is my appointment, and my nomination for the position will be Andrew J. Barlow. We have a second. Questions or comments on the appointment? Commissioner Justice.
Yeah, and I've had this brought up to me by a couple of different people that were worried more about Andy than they were anything else, given the fact that Andy, as a former employee, worked for the city manager as public works director. And the example that was posted to me was, well, there's a couple of different examples. One of them, I'll just talk about one of them that was not as risque as the other one, but say Sheila was angry at the city manager and decided to file an ethics complaint on something. Then the fact that Andy Barlow worked for the city manager and worked with Sheila, you know, how would that fair to him, and how would that be fair to him actually to be put in the position to vote against people that were his friends? And so they were questioning that. And I said, well, I'll raise the question and see if we can get an answer on it. And I do understand the concern. So, I mean, if somebody can address that, I did appreciate the one comment that somebody made at lunch to me today was, you know, out of 40,000 people in our city, that the only person that could be found to fill that one spot was one who works for TDOT and actually is a former employee for the city of Mountain Juliet. It just looks doesn't look great. So I told him I would bring those concerns to your attention, and we would have some discussion and vote accordingly.
Understand. Commissioner Mullally, you had seeking the floor as well.
Yeah, for me, I was hoping Andy would be here because I wanted to ask him a couple of questions. So since he's not here, I guess it just comes down to, do I believe that he would be a benefit to the Ethics Commission? And so I guess that's the bottom line. I wanted to ask if any disagreements or previous grievances or anything that's occurred between him and anyone else, say up here or anyone else, would that hinder his decision making, you know, when looking at the facts before him? So my experience in 4 years with Andy was he's an upstanding guy. He's seems to me to be a man of character and integrity. So I think he would say that would not affect his decision making, and that he would have to look at the facts before him and not let any biasness or anything else affect his decision. The other question had to do with him being former public works director. If a complaint was filed, say, against Kenny, with Kenny being his former boss, or if any complaint was filed against any employee in public works with him being their former boss, would he think that would be a conflict of interest and affect any decision making that he may have? So since he's not here, I guess I have to make the decision whether or not I think he could set all that aside and make the best decision possible. And to me, he seems like the kind of guy that would. So,
Well, thank you. Appreciate the feedback. Anybody else have any feedback or comments they'd like to say? Commissioner Justice?
This is people asking me questions and me bringing these questions forward. Okay. And I'd have zero problem with Andy Barlow, none whatsoever.
Certainly, and I'll try to address every one of these. Anyone else? Commissioner Hefner?
Yeah, I didn't even think about the T-Dot. Now that you mentioned that, I don't know, Gino, is there a conflict due that the city is engaged in contractual relationships with T-Dot, and he's actually different if he worked in HR at T-Dot, but he doesn't. He works within the road engineering, which I'm sure spills over in some of the stuff he may be doing in the future for Mount Juliet. Is there any concern there from a
The only disallowance is if they hold an elected office in state government.
Here.
Yep, I'll allow it.
Okay. And I'm not going to, and again, this is not aimed at Andy as much as this anybody was put in that position. Yeah. I don't envy Andy. Matter of fact, I question his, we're going to talk about his mental capacity for wanting to do this. But I don't want as well for us to follow what we've got as an ethics ordinance as any kind of criteria, because our ethics ordinance is as poorly written and the process is so bad that we should not be following that particular ordinance. We should probably wait until there's another ordinance in place, but that's not going to help or hurt with Andy's situation as far as he's concerned. But I mean, that is, I don't want to be taking any guidance from our current ethics ordinance.
Understand. Well, I'll start out by saying it's not uncommon for people when they're appointed to boards to not be in attendance. So I know there's some questions was raised if he's here or not. This is probably more often people are not in attendance when they're being appointed than are. As far as his ability to do this, and I understand the questions about what was it, out of 40,000 people, how we arrived at the one. Well, first of all, 40,000 are not eligible, but of the people, and I said it at the last meeting, I'm really hesitant to appoint another kangaroo to the kangaroo court. And I wanted to get somebody, and after seeking feedback from some of this, it's like, why are you resigning? Why are you stepping down? Well, some of the feedback was, don't know. We didn't know exactly what we were getting into. There's a lot going on. It's not an easy task that we ask these volunteers to take on and do this. Mr. Barlow has probably one of the more vetted individuals in this town as when it comes to city and municipal task. Not only have we trusted him as a board up here with millions of dollars in the past, multiple projects, and to run a department for years. I think that's about as vetted as we'll see any member of the board come through that's been appointed. But I specifically, when the conversation was had about the possibility of it, and he asked to pray about it, but specifically, I wanted somebody who knew exactly what they were getting into with this board, that they weren't surprised, that they knew what they were walking into with eyes wide open, the responsibilities of it, and fully understands the ramifications of the decisions made there. And that's all I've asked, other than that he voted conscious on this board. And that's how I arrived at this decision. I've looked at a number of other individuals, had some that have volunteered, but for various reasons, I didn't think some of the appointments would be appropriate to make. And it's more so than just what's inside the ordinance. But I believe he will be a good nomination going forward. I do agree with you, Commissioner Justice. The current ethics ordinance is broken. There's writings out there that predate my time in office by years that forecasted the various scenarios that we see ourselves in with the way the ordinance plays out. So I think everybody will be pleased to know that on this coming Monday's meeting, I will have a resolution to replace the current ordinance with the MTAS model. the model that MTask has written 2 years ago, which is prior to our even considering ethics complaints here, is non-biased offering that's made statewide. So if that passes, there would be no ethics commission beyond this. So in my mind, this appointment is to serve out what the duty is before us, and hopefully us put a better product before us so that the citizens of Mount Gilead can rest assured that the process that's being considered is thoughtful, laid out, transparent, and all above board. So with that, oh, you've already spoken twice, but I'll allow it.
So are you saying that there's another ethics ordinance that has come into play that we are not aware of and have not been aware of? So what you're,
I said I will bring an ordinance at Monday's meeting on the 12th to replace it with a new model. The model can be found online. It's on the MTask website.
how closely does it resemble the one we've got?
It's got the word ethics in it.
That's much it. And the reason I ask that is because I've got also one that's been rewritten with revisions as well.
Okay. So I just took the MTask model out there and asked why we wouldn't run with this. And that's what we adopted the model in 2006. It was amended in 7 and 8.
Yep.
And in my opinion, for the detriment to our community. Mr. Mullally.
I thought I heard you say resolution. So,
If I said resolution, it's an error. It will be an ordinance.
okay.
Take an ordinance to amend code. You are correct. All in favor of the appointment, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? With that, Mr. Andrew J. Barlow is duly appointed, and we've reached the conclusion of our agenda. So without objection, we will adjourn. Hearing no objections, we are adjourned.